With our words and our deeds, we show each other what's ideal. We show each other what's the minimum standard we're expected to live up to. And we show each other what's normal also. In many ways, the most worrying aspect of the fame of people like Freelee and Durianrider is precisely that they gave us a corrosive sense of what is normal on the internet, on our part of the internet, within so-called vegan activism, within the digital vegan demimonde, whatever you want to say. You've heard me state those concerns in the past. You've heard me say that evil is not what happens when evil people do evil things. It's what happens when good people sit idly by and do nothing. Okay? Today is the day that Freelee and Durianrider got around to deleting the Vegan Cheetah's channel. To my knowledge, the actual complaints against his channel were filed by Freelee and by Vegan Ava. And the nature of the complaint did state this to Charles. He received a receipt, so to speak. He received a form letting him know the nature of the complaint and who filed it against him. I have concerns, not just about Freelee and Durianrider. I also have concerns about Charles and what he's been doing with his content. This video does not exist for me to state my unqualified support for the Vegan Cheetah. Because, firstly, he is my friend. But I don't believe that friendship is a relationship of unqualified support. I believe that friendship is a relationship of qualified support. We support our friends with qualifications, with concerns, with questions, with doubts. And it's very important that we retain the ability to discuss those questions as questions. A question is different from an accusation. A question is different from defamation. A question is different from jumping to a conclusion, making a video, slandering someone, or just blackening their character, assuming the worst about them, filling in the blanks, and then afterwards waiting for them to respond after you've said the most outrageous thing possible. Okay? Even from what I've just said now, I think it will be clear to you that my concerns are not only about Harley and Freelee. Many of the people who are critics of Harley and Freelee have ended up reproducing some of the worst aspects of the Harley and Freelee freak show. I have recently seen, I think, both Joe Vegan and Cheetah refer to some other vegans here on YouTube, vegan personalities, as white supremacists. And I have never seen them produce any evidence, any argument, any quotation from those people that indicates that they're even a little bit racist, let alone that they're white supremacists. There is no standard for what's acceptable or unacceptable. But I have to tell you, from my perspective, that is unacceptable. And I made videos in the past dealing with the fact that there were false accusations against Bite Size Vegan. Bite Size Vegan was falsely accused of being a racist and a white supremacist, and there was a whole controversy surrounding it. And meanwhile, as I pointed in that video, there are vegans here on YouTube who really are white supremacists, who really are racists, in some cases who really are Nazis, who openly glorify Adolf Hitler. And there's an implicit choice in blackening someone's character who is not racist or where there's really no evidence of them being a white supremacist, as opposed to tackling actual white supremacists. So those are all issues. For those of you who've been fans of my channel for a long time, those are all things I've spoken about before. And simply to be honest, I assumed I would speak about them again with Cheetah. I simply have no reason to make a video attacking him, denouncing him, or assuming the worst about him. What I would do is talk to him about it, directly by email. And, he and I make podcasts together. We record videos together. I assume the sort of thing he and I could talk about, probably be a very interesting conversation. and share with his viewers, share with people like you. That's interesting for everyone involved. So you see already, even where there's a serious difference of opinion, there's the possibility of really doing something productive, working with that difference of opinion. If we can just appreciate the difference between a question and an accusation. What we're going through, the big picture here on the small screen on YouTube, what we're going through is a process of disambiguation. The rules by which the game were played were ambiguous to all of the players. Is it acceptable or unacceptable for Durianrider to insult my mom, to dox me? I don't know. Who decides? We decide. All of us. Right here, right now. That's why I made this big deal out of saying, evil is what happens when good people stand by and do nothing. In Middle Eastern culture, in North Africa, in the parts of the Middle East I've had contact with, to insult someone's mother like that is a big deal. It leads to trouble. Insulting someone's mother the way Durianrider insulted my mother. I'm not Middle Eastern. I'm not Italian. Italians also can get very, very angry and violent if you upset their mother. I didn't respond that way. I don't think that's anywhere near the most serious question that's been raised by Durianrider, but it's still a question. It still is a question. Doxing people, bringing their mom into it, bringing their wife into it, bringing their kid into it. Does that cross a line? Who decides? You decide. We decide. And some of you guys felt I was being unfair in calling out Ali Tabrizi, because Ali Tabrizi was a friend of mine. He was someone who knew me well enough. Even though we're not the closest friends, he was a close enough friend to know that the accusation against me were 100% false. So if those accusations are made against somebody you know, where you know it's a lie, you know it's a malicious lie, you know the threats of violence are backed up by nothing, they were never based on a sincere concern for the well-being or safety of the women of the festival, there was no excuse. When you know the nature of the evil, the motivation for it, you know the outcomes, you know the harm it's going to do to me, the harm it's going to do to us as a little vegan demi-monde, the long-term harm it could do to veganism itself. What does it mean for you, for me, for us, if you sit by and do nothing? I still think that's an important question. And I still think everyone has to go through this process of disambiguation, where you can't sit in the fence anymore. We've seen that now. I mean, Happy Healthy Vegan, so many channels, well, Vegan Gains himself, so many people who would have been more comfortable sitting on the fence, remaining vague, remaining non-committal, or trying to remain friends with both sides. So many people, sooner or later, were forced to take a stand, were forced to make it unambiguously clear, here's the line, here's where I draw the line, here's where we should draw the line, and here's how you've crossed it. Now, again, this is another case where there's no real debate. Nobody is debating whether or not Durianrider and Freelee have crossed the line numerous times before and yet again now. Nobody really thought it was acceptable for Durianrider to accuse me of being a sexual predator, say he was going to beat me up, etc. These things were so outrageous, they're ridiculous. Nobody thinks it's acceptable for, Cheetah's channel to be deleted. These things are not debatable. But what's interesting to me is that actually at the same time, some of the things that Happy Healthy Vegan has just been trying to debate, some of the questions raised by Cheetah's own conduct on his own channel, I think they are debatable. I think they're debates worth having. I think that, calling someone a white supremacist, I think that's defamation of a very serious kind. And how does it compare? So bringing in someone's mom, someone's wife or daughter, as opposed to defaming them as a white supremacist, where, again, to my knowledge, there's no substance to that, and there was no care taken to make a case or prove it or what have you. I think those still are debates worth having. I think there are ambiguities here that are really worth being concerned about on all sides. So for me, that makes this a much more dynamic and peculiar situation than it might otherwise be. I'm concerned that so few of my fellow vegans are interested in the facts, are interested in doing the right thing for the right reasons, and that so many of my fellow vegans are simply interested in supporting their friends because you're friends with them, or are so interested in attacking someone simply because you consider them your enemy. That's just incompatible with politics, period. These are not politically sophisticated attitudes. These are not workable, useful attitudes. How is it that so many people think that I exposed private emails between myself and a natural vegan? Where is there even one video here on YouTube of me putting up private emails between us? She put up one email and one video, her own email, and she reported correctly that when she asked for my permission to post private emails, I said no, because I think that's immoral and inappropriate and counterproductive. How is it that so many people think I posted private emails to myself and Veg Ann, in that dispute? I never did. It was a completely private dispute. I never made any public statement, but I never shared anything. She posted public emails. She took my public correspondence and made long videos denouncing me and insulting my character. Nobody cared. Nobody was interested in the facts of the matter. It was so easy for the same people who supposedly supported me because it was the right thing to do for the right reasons to turn around on a dime and condemn me and vilify me because of some complete bullshit that in many cases is just obviously contrary to the facts. But nobody was interested in the facts, you know? And I mean, how many times have we seen the audience, or large parts of the audience, turn on Charles, turn on Cheetah because he's a homophobe, because he's racist, because he's transphobic, whatever the cause of the moment is. I've got to tell you, I think the way out of that is what I've already covered in this video that's short but way too long. I think you've really got to develop the discipline of asking a question in the form of a question, not an accusation, not a denunciation of someone's character. Now, like, I'm not really that interested, but if your question really is, Charles, how do you feel about transgender people? You could ask that question. That could be a conversation in a podcast or whatever. The guy, he puts in so many hours answering questions like that on YouNow, on YouTube. He wouldn't be thrown by that or offended by it. He wouldn't be hostile or defend. This is nothing. And, you know, any of these other people, you know, there's so many people who denounced me over things that could have just been questions, where you could have just asked. And I've seen other people making videos defending me saying, look, I know that's not true in this situation because I asked him and he answered and we talked about it. Like, people who just asked me, you know? I don't know, man. I mean, I've said so many times I'm worried about the future of this medium. I'm worried about digital veganism. Obviously, I'm worried about the future prospects of veganism proper. But I've never been more worried about the short-term future. I've never been more worried about the next 6 weeks or the next 6 months. What does it mean to be a good person in the 21st century? What does it mean to have personal integrity? What does it mean to have honor and dignity yourself? And what does it mean to treat other people with honor and dignity, even if you disagree with them, even if in some sense they're your enemies?